Hello, I'm Barry Mackay, and today I'm speaking to Anthony Venn-Brown, who's a former Assemblies of God leader, founder of Freedom to Be, and currently Director of Ambassadors and Bridge Builders International. I'm going to talk to Anthony about being Christian and gay and sex. So, Anthony,
yes,
can gay Christians have sex?
Well, that's a great question, and that requires more than just a simple answer. But fundamentally, of course, anyone who is a human being can have sex. So when we're talking about sex for a gay Christian, we need to be looking at what sexual orientation is really all about. And some people think that sex is just about sex. But of course, anyone who has an understanding of sexual orientation knows that it's much deeper than this. It's to do with love, it's to do with intimacy, it's to do with affection, and also partnering for life.
So what's the difference between people in the gay community having sex and gay Christians having sex?
Well, I think we need to realise that, our sexual nature is very much a part of our human nature. Heterosexuals have sex, and within the spectrum of heterosexuality, you get a whole broad range of moralities and approaches to sex. So you can have people who have sexual addictions. Sex can be, for some people, it's about abuse or obsession. For some people are very promiscuous, some people are very moral, and some people are celibate. So, when we're talking about sex, we're talking about something which is human. And so, that is a capability that people have, whether they're gay or straight.
A number of people in faith communities say that, well, it's okay to be homosexual, but you shouldn't act out your feelings. How would you respond to that?
Well, it's interesting because there was a model that was presented just over a decade ago by an organisation called Bridges Across the Divide to talk about these issues. And what they came up with was a model which was side A and side B. Side A said, okay, it's okay for me to be gay, and it's also okay for me to have a sexual relationship within a monogamous committed relationship. Side B said it's okay for me to be gay, but I can never act on that. That would be immoral. So there are those two different positions. So people have different opinions about what they should and what they shouldn't do. I think when people are taking that into account and wanting to discuss that, I think it's important that they really do get a good understanding of what sexual orientation is about. As I mentioned, it's about love, it's about intimacy, it's about affection, and it's your sexual orientation that will determine who you want to be with for the rest of your life.
Anthony, you've spoken about side A and side B being that you can't act on your sexual orientation. What would you say to those people?
Well, I think the first thing I'd say is I respect their decision. If someone has chosen to be celibate, then that's a good thing. But remembering that Jesus very clearly said this is a gift. But I would say to side B is, what is your decision based upon? Is it based upon a true understanding of what sexual orientation is about, being love, intimacy, affection, and partnering, those lovely, beautiful, wholesome things? Or is it based upon years of internalized homophobia? You've been conditioned probably for many, many years, as I was, to think that this was a terrible, terrible thing you had to rid yourself of, which created years of self-hatred and self-loathing. So that's my one question: is it based on that? Secondly, is your decision based upon a true understanding of sexual orientation? And the third thing is that possibly based on previous sexual experiences?
What do you mean by that?
Because I do know, from all the emails I've had from readers of my autobiography, that one of the things that can happen when people are in the closeted is that the gay self becomes the dark self. And there are all sorts of things that are attached to that gay self. So that could be that they may begin to experience some sexual addiction or obsession. So some things that they would normally do, lots of shame, lots of guilt, lots of condemnation. and fear in the closet. So it may be that previously, before they accepted their sexual orientation, that what happened was their sexual experiences were all negative, maybe even, many sexual encounters, brief sexual encounters, meaningless sexual encounters. It left them feeling very, very empty. One thing I do know is that for many of us, when we come out, that sexual addiction obsession dies immediately.
Really?
That's exactly what happened to me. 22 years I struggled with a sexual addiction, and when I came out, that thing's lost its power immediately. Imagine what my life would have been like if someone told me that at the age of 16 I just need to accept who I was instead of hate who I was.
But don't you think someone who comes out might want to explode out of the closet and have as much sex as possible?
And that happens as well, Barry, that some people burst out of the closet and see they already have a concept because they've been told in the church, oh, these gay people are really promiscuous, these gay people have lots of sex and do lots of drugs, and so that's what they go and do immediately because that's what they've been told they should do. But after a while, I think things start to balance out and they start to determine their own sense of morality and what is right for them, and about being respectful towards themselves and towards other people. So I would think that, there will be straight Christians, some straight Christians who would say, you're gay, yes, okay, you can be gay, but you can never have sex. Well, that's like saying, well, okay, imagine asking a heterosexual to do that. You say, okay, oh, yes, you're heterosexual, but I know you could never actually fall in love, you could never actually partner with someone for life, you could never have a committed relationship. If anyone started a church with that as a part of their doctrine, no one would join it. So why is it that straight Christians, are saying to gay and lesbian Christians, yes, I'll accept that you're gay, but you can never ever act on it? That's a denial of a very fundamental part of our human nature.
Is having sex good for our psychological well-being?
Well, it depends on what context that's in, If it's within a relationship which is loving, which is respectful, then of course, this is a beautiful way to express our love. I mean, it can be one of the most profound and spiritual experiences that a human being can have, is to be with someone they love, and that they're expressing that, in a physical way. And the intimacy one can experience within that context is an experience that you really can't have any other way.
So what you're really saying is to be Christian, be gay and Christian, and to have sex, you have to be with a partner.
Well, I'm saying within that context, there are many, that would be what my understanding of, being a Christian, that this is not about you having one-night stands, having anonymous sex, or those sorts of things. But if you love somebody, to deny that part of your God-given human nature is to deny us a gift that's been given to you, and something that really enhances the relationship. It's a beautiful thing.
What if you can't find a relationship?
If you can't find a relationship, I don't believe it's up to me to judge others. That they have to, if they're a Christian, they have to live their life honourably before God. And make their choices, and God is the one that they have to answer to about that. I think that most of us would think, okay, if you're a Christian and you're claiming to be a Christian and you're being incredibly promiscuous, that there would be a problem with that, whether you were heterosexual or whether you were gay.
Now, the Bible states that it should only be heterosexual relationships. Is that so?
The Bible doesn't actually state that, no, Barry. What the Bible talks about in the 6 references to same-sex activity or behaviour is that each one of those 6, in one of these contexts, it's either about rape or abuse, it's either about pagan practices, or it's about a temple prostitution or prostitution itself, or what's known as pederasty, which is an older man with a younger boy. That's the only time same-sex activity is mentioned in the Bible, that context. Never ever, in a loving, committed relationship.
Are there loving, committed homosexual relationships in the Bible?
Well, some people do believe that there are. Some people believe that David and Jonathan's relationship was a physical, intimate relationship. Some people believe that Ruth and Naomi's relationship was also a physical relationship. So for anyone to come to their own conclusions about that would require a great deal of study, particularly looking into the cultural aspects. There's some interesting things around the original language there as well that people would have to delve into to come to their own conclusions.
Now, if gay people can't marry, then shouldn't they refrain from having sex at all?
Well, this is where the place that we're at right now. I mean, there was a time when we didn't even believe you could be gay and be Christian. There was a time when the whole of society thought that this was a sickness, and also it was not only immoral, it was illegal. So, society shifted in their understanding thanks to scientific research and more people coming out, and the religious world is also shifting in this area and their understanding of it. So the whole thing that's happening in the broader society right now is that we're looking at marriage equality, something that was inconceivable, even probably a decade ago. Certainly inconceivable around the times of Stonewall riots, when gay rights, came to the fore, and to end inequality and discrimination. And so the church is always behind. The church is catching up. But there are churches today which will bless same-sex unions, marriages, and those people live as heterosexual couples do within the congregation, within the community, in monogamous committed relationships.
What do you say to people who argue against gay marriage, that it's only between a man and a woman, and letting same-sex couples marry actually degrades the institution of marriage?
It's a very poor argument, that. And of course, when anybody says that, they're demonstrating really their fundamental lack of understanding about human nature, about our sexual orientation, about sexuality itself. I mean, to say to somebody, it isn't just about the sex, or it isn't just about the marriage, but what they're saying is, you can't love. And who has the right to say that to another human being? You can't fall in love, you can't be with somebody, and nobody, whether you're in the church or out of the church, has the right to say that to another human being.
From your observation, Anthony, do you think that there is a double standard in the church over this issue?
Oh, definitely. There's a huge double standard. It's quite hypocritical, actually, because we know that over 90% of Christian heterosexual couples who go to the altar today to get married are not virgins. So some of those have experimented in growing up in their teenage years. Some of them have been having sex with their partner. Some of them may have been having sex with somebody before they decided to marry this person. But in many churches, or in some churches today, you'll find that even if I know one situation where a young man disclosed that he was gay, and he never acted on it. Immediately he was removed from leadership in the church, and he was a youth pastor, and he's never done anything, So here's the church married these people who are not virgins, but say to this gay guy, oh, you're immoral because you're gay. And then, of course, for us to discover who we are, people go through experimentation as they're growing up. You don't go to hell for that. This is part of your experience of growing up and knowing who you are. And, there is this notion that all heterosexual Christian couples are just all pure, but they're not, And so we need to not have one standard for straight people and another standard for gay people.
I understand you've got a nice quote from Boy George.
Yes, I thought Boy George put this whole thing in great context when he said there is an illusion that homosexuals have sex, but heterosexuals fall in love.
If people want to find out further information on the internet about this, what you've written, where can they go?
Well, if they go to my site, www.gayambassador.com, they will find articles, they will find information, and they'll know how to contact me.